Hello world. Today I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit out of our world, so hello galaxy. Not the smartphone, just the, okay, never mind. We talk about social commentary, I talk about technology on a day-to-day basis. I also would like to make time in my schedule to talk about something that I'm absolutely fascinated by, as I've talked about before, Elon Musk and SpaceX. He's recently announced that they have plans on sending 2 giant BFR rockets to Mars by 2022, and then hopefully by 2024 send a total of 4 BFR rockets to Mars with actual people on them. This is an incredibly ambitious plan given the fact that no one of any country has gotten a single person to ever walk on a planet that is not Earth. And in fact, SpaceX has not really done any manned missions, period. It's been very, very impressive to see how they can land their Falcon rockets so precisely on little platforms and be able to reuse the rockets, so there shows a lot of promise with SpaceX. A lot of people used to laugh at Elon Musk, a lot of people used to doubt him, and it seems that despite people saying that he's crazy for trying to do what he's doing, he's typically worked it out. He's found a way to do it. But I think venturing into this next generation of getting people to other planets, there's going to be massive problems that I could at least see people not considering or people not thinking about at this point in time. So first off, deep space travel, I think, is a big, scary thing that a lot of people don't really think about when they think about, oh yeah, maybe someday we can fly to Mars. There have been people that have stayed on the International Space Station for months and months on end, even in fact over a year. A Mars mission though, and as Elon Musk is planning it, he's anticipating that hundreds of people would like to go. He's saying that a cargo ship of BFR rockets could hold perhaps a maximum of 100 people. The shortest possible trip to Mars, though, is a grand total of like 4 years. For those of you who don't know, when you take off from Earth and start heading your way towards Mars, because Earth and Mars orbit around the sun at different orientations and at different speeds, once you even get to Mars, you can't necessarily just start heading home whenever you feel like it. You have to wait until Mars and Earth orbit at the right pace until they are close enough together that a rocket can actually get you back to Earth. And with it on average taking 7 to 8 months to get there, having to wait the 2 years on Mars until you can fly back again, it means that the shortest possible time you can take to travel through space, get to Mars, and come back to Earth is likely 3.5 to 4 years. That is a very long time, and especially when SpaceX is considering the idea that the BFR rocket should act like an airliner. He compares it to that a lot. You know, we don't use an airliner once and then start from scratch again, and all the tickets sold on a particular airliner do not cover the price of the aircraft, but what makes it worth it to the airliner and what makes it possible to people is the fact that it's reusable. You know, lots of people are using jets, lots of people need to be transported from place to place around the planet, so when there's a high demand and you can reuse that jet, it means that over time the plane can be paid off and the business can make money. Elon Musk has a very similar way of looking at rockets. He's trying to find a way this could be used efficiently, and this could become a consistent process of us using rockets over and over again and making sure that the people who go on the rockets don't necessarily have to cover the price of the entire rocket, but the idea that the rocket is being used over and over again and collecting money each time, eventually it will be able to pay itself off. But of course the big issue is lots of people need to travel all across the planet. There's a much smaller demand of people who need to go to another planet. In fact, no one really on Earth necessarily needs. I mean, there's people who like to make jokes about the country's going to crap, or oh my god, there's these terrifying stupid people on the internet. I need to leave this planet. I understand that joke. It's funny and all, but it's completely different from the idea that you have saved up $250,000, which is hopefully what Elon Musk is saying a ticket to Mars would cost. And keep in mind, that's best case scenario. It would likely cost more than that at first. Trying to find a demographic of people that are okay with spending about the price of a house on a ticket to another planet, which means they will be in outer space for 4 years. And I know that the journey only takes 8 months to a year, but when you get on Mars, it's not necessarily like you're just visiting a different country. Like, we know you can't breathe there. You have to bring your own air. You have to have an astronaut suit on anytime you go outside. You're going to be kept inside very compact quarters. It's kind of like in the movie The Martian, where you're kind of living in this plastic world where everything is made of efficiency and Velcro, and everything has to be 3D printed, everything has to be recycled. Even your own human waste is likely going to be put through a process so that you can re-drink the water you urinate. There may be gravity on Mars, but it's not necessarily like you're just living in a different country or you're living in the wilderness. It's almost like living entirely underwater. You know, you have to bring all of your resources with you. The fact that you can't just walk outside without some kind of suit equipment. You're gonna need something to keep you warm because it is incredibly cold there. I just feel like the demographic of people that are able to afford a trip to Mars won't be interested in a trip to Mars. I'm sure that there's some people out there, but the big issue with this is that Elon is anticipating it to be a routine cycle. scale, as in hundreds of people are going to be wanting to go at a time. And I just feel like it won't be as constant as an airliner is, because an airliner, first of all, does not take months and months and years on end. It takes hours and hours. Sometimes almost a 24-hour flight is rare, but it can happen. Whereas this means abandoning their families, abandoning their business. If they able to afford this kind of ticket, it typically means they've been successful in life to either find a job that has a very consistent income and they would suddenly have to stop that job, either take a very long leave of absence or just quit, just so they could go to another planet and say, hey, I am the first human here. Now, please do not get the wrong expression from me. I am totally excited to see humans become a multiplanetary species, and I think that Elon Musk is one of the most influential people in history to help humanity get to that point. And we all know it's not easy, and I think Elon Musk is doing a really great job figuring out the physics and logistics of how we get there, whether it be via reusable rocket that holds a ton of people or maybe even just a capsule that holds a few professionals. I'm concerned that this idea that if we sell a ton of tickets for the BFR in order to pay for it, you're going to have to constantly find hundreds and hundreds of people that are okay with ditching their families, friends, and jobs that already have $250,000 lying around, bare minimum, and are willing to just ditch this lifestyle. So like I said earlier, humans have spent months and months and even a year in space on the International Space Station. Now that's a little bit different than this deep space travel we're talking about, because first of all, they have Earth right at home, okay? They look out their window, they see that big blue planet, and they go, that is my home, that's where my friends are. Not that that necessarily does anything logical. I think that just emotionally, that is more comforting to a human to know that they're not terribly far away. You know that astronauts on the space station can be in constant contact with the people on the ground, and in fact, they have to be. It would actually be a big problem if suddenly we lost communication with the people on the International Space Station. You know, they're actually required to be in constant contact. They do interviews with people on the ground. They have live TV specials. They're live on the NASA Apple TV app all the time. So while they're confined to a small space and they don't have much breathing room or stretching room, you know, they're in zero gravity, they have a good time, and it's very easy for them to contact other human beings. What we haven't seen yet, even back in the 1960s when we went to the moon, it was still fairly simple to contact people on Earth because we were not that far away. Yeah, there was a slight delay because of how fast radio transmitters can process data between that great a distance, and there were some times that because of the orbit of the moon, we would have little bits of blackout, but they weren't terribly long. When you send even 50 to 60 people to another planet, the further they get away from Earth, I think personally, this is just a theory of mine, the more those passengers will really start to kind of lose their minds. As in, they're in a confined space, everything's about efficiency, everything has to be recycled and reused, you're stuck with the same people, so imagine if you got put on a bus with a chatty guy or someone you didn't really care for and you were sitting next to him. Now imagine you're sitting next to that guy for 8 months, and it turns out he's getting off at the same stop as you. So the people you are on that flight with, you're gonna get very used to, and you better hope that they're likable people. You better hope that they're people you can get to know better and you don't mind hanging out with, because the idea of being able to just have a vocal conversation, you know, back when we did the lunar landings, there was a bit of a delay, but we could still talk back and forth with Houston. As you get further away from the planet and you're on your way towards Mars, it suddenly becomes impossible to do that. Sending radio transmissions and even just sending pure data back and forth between Earth and Mars, at the soonest takes about 10 minutes, but it definitely changes. Because keep in mind, while you're on Mars, and if you want to head back as soon as you get there and you decided, oh my god, this is a terrible mistake, that's not an option. You can't go back until those 2 years are up. I don't know about you, but 2 years feels like a really long time to be stuck in kind of a scuba tank gear outfit, or to be stuck in the same confined area with the same group of people. Trying to contact people back at Earth is no longer going to be a voice chat. You wouldn't say something, wait 10 minutes, and then get a response. That's not interactive voice call. All it would really be now is you recording a message, hitting send, waiting, then they have to get the message, have it transcoded by their computers, then they listen to it, come up with an answer, and then send it back, which pretty much at the end of the day means that communication between message and message, there's minimum going to be like 20 minutes between every single phrase and every single word. That's what really concerns me, because I think the idea of sending passengers to Mars just so that they can enjoy that and say that they're the first humans to be there, that's going to be really cool, and it's going to be a monumental moment that I'm really looking forward to seeing. The first time humans step foot on a different planet, what the first words will be, what will the name of that person be. We still don't know these things yet, but such solitary confinement away from the rest of humanity, I think, definitely can have a toll on your mental state, and also just being stuck with the same number of people with the same attitudes, same personalities. It's kind of like absolutely forcing a tiny micro community. If you get in a fight with someone in there about politics or religion or heck, what your favorite phone is, it's not like you can just say goodbye to that person and say, I don't want to talk to them anymore. You can't step outside and get some air. That tiny tent you're living in on Mars, that is your air. And what I think that means is for the first people going to Mars, it really can't just be passengers that are willing to pay the ticket to take themselves there. It has to be some extreme professionals that have trained with only a handful of people that know that, okay, we can be locked in a room together for days on end and not go completely nuts. What definitely worries me about the idea of taking a crowd of 100 people to Mars one day is that the more people you take, the more issues you're going to run into, because everyone is individualistic, everyone will run into problems, and I'm sure that if you're sending 100 people, at least one of them is going to start to have regrets. And when you start having regrets, you start acting brash, and as we know how frail the human mind is, very quickly I think we could see mental breakdowns, tantrums, and perhaps even people acting out violently on a spaceship because they're separated from their lives, their jobs, things that we take for granted. Being able to pull your socks off and feel them in grass. Being able to sit in front of the sun and feel it warm yourself. Being able to go swimming when you want to. All of those things would no longer be possible when you decide to go to Mars, and I feel like it wouldn't set in for a lot of people. A lot of people right now, probably some of you watching this, are likely just like, oh yeah, I'd go to Mars. If I had the money for it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll be the first person there. Why the heck not, right? And then you would get on the ship, realize that internet speeds are practically gone. You cannot watch your favorite YouTubers for 4 years. You cannot watch Netflix for 4 years. Looking forward to Stranger Things Season 3? Yeah, I can't watch it. Looking forward to Avengers Infinity War? You're gonna miss that release. Looking forward to Star Wars Episode 9? Not happening. All, of course, will already be out by the time people are heading to Mars, but there will be a new set of entertainment franchises by then, and I'm just saying, you're ditching a lot to go to Mars, and I think that a lot of people who say they would go nowadays aren't necessarily considering all of the things they would be leaving behind. Not to just mention family and friends, but on top of that, you know, your freedom of choice. The fact that for 4 years, you will not have an option to back out. Like, even when you're enlisted in the military, you can decide to ring the bell, you can decide to have someone take you home. In this case, it would literally be impossible to get you home, and I think that the more people you take, as the goal with the SpaceX missions is to try to make this a routine cycle, and in that way start paying for the rockets, there's very quickly going to be some problems, and I honestly would be incredibly saddened, but not terribly surprised if we found out that on the first manned mission to Mars, one of the crew, one of the people on there actually has a breakdown, starts acting hostile towards the other passengers, and they have to actually put them down or incapacitate them for the safety of the rest of the crew. It's a terrifying idea, and I think that it would actually probably make a really good movie plot. You don't need aliens to make space scary. We've never sent humans this far before, and we've never had them so alone and so scared that I think there's a lot of problems that we can't even begin to think about with that kind of space travel. So to those people out there who are willing to go to Mars for us, I have mad props for you. I'm not one of them, but I have mad respect for anyone who thinks they can do it. Thank you guys for watching today's episode. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.